Hello, my name's Catherine and I run Kiss Me Deadly. I'm here today to talk about the stuff that we are producing because you made our Kickstarter work! And that's as well as I can dance. So, now that we actually know that things are going into production, we had everything spec'd out in advance, but obviously fit is a bit of an art form rather than a science, particularly with this type of nightwear. So I thought I would just talk a little bit about it and about the things that are the most flexible and the things that are the least flexible. So I'm going to start off with the gown. I'm going to actually show you the original that this was based on. This is a gown by Schiaparelli. It's from the 1940s, so it's totally out of copyright, which is important. It came from Circa Vintage in Australia, where Nicole, who's a good friend of ours, tipped me off to its existence, and I told her I had to have it. Then I got it and went, wow, it's really cool, it's like so cool, it's really cool, why is it peach? So obviously our version's black, everything is black. You'll notice as well that on the mannequin it's a lot stiffer than what I'm wearing, which is because of the fabrics that we used then versus fabrics that we like to wear now. So ours is slinky, where this is more kind of stately. We did do a few minor tweaks, so we didn't put the ruching in on the bust line, it just wasn't really adding anything. And we also, when you get yours, because most of you are going to get yours, you need to notice that neither they nor us could work out how to do this really awesome pointed buttoned cuff without leaving this loose seam here. So I need to tell you that pretty much everybody who's tried these on ends up with their hands stuck in their cuff initially. Just watch out for it. We would have sewn it down, but then you'd have got an ugly line around here. We didn't want to do that. So we're just trusting you to be clever, because you are quite clever. So I'm wearing a small sample, which is a bit of a miracle because I have a 34-inch waist and 43-inch hips last time I checked. I don't check very often, which makes me normally kind of pretty much a large to extra large, usually an extra large if I want something on my bottom half. However, I'm petite, I'm 5'1", I have a very tiny bone structure, which means sometimes if things are cut particularly interestingly, I can get into small samples because my shoulders are quite tiny. If you're worrying about sizing on this stuff, the bit that you need to worry about is actually your shoulders, which is a weird thing to say about sleepwear, but honestly that is the issue. When you're looking at this gown, the only fit issue that we've had is if your shoulders are broad or you have particularly large wrists. I don't know how you work out what size your wrists are. I don't have a standard chart for that, I'm sorry. Then you will need to make sure that you get the right size in this gown. Almost everything else is flexible because it's a wrap style. So you can see here what's happening because I'm wearing a small sample, but I'm normally a large to extra large, is that I can't fully wrap it over. But it's not obscene. It's not obscene by my standards. It might be by yours, I don't know. Tell Facebook. So there's a fair amount of flexibility here. You can cinch it in if it's too big. You can let it fall slightly open if it's too small. The skirt is very full, so it's not really going to matter if you've got a big hip to waist differential. But this bit is really crucial. The reason that we couldn't show this on Jess is because she's 6'1" and she couldn't get her shoulders into it. Actually, I think she only admits to being 6 foot tall, but we're pretty certain she's 6'1". None of us can get up there to measure. The same thing applies to the sheer ruffle robe. If you're looking at that, then most of the fit issue is in this bit. And there is some fit issue here because it does up with a hook and eye. I would show you the sample, but almost immediately that we allowed it to be loaned out, a bunch of photographers have already borrowed it. So it's off having happy travels around the world. I'm also wearing the small sample for the Grace gown, which I'm kind of astonished by. I wasn't actually expecting this to fit. I hadn't even tried it on until today because it's the only one that exists at the moment, and if I break it, I'm in trouble. So, this is what I meant about bias cutting. Everybody keeps asking about length and size, and I'm like, well, it's bias cut, so it doesn't really work the way that most modern stuff works. Most modern stuff is made with very stretchy fabric with a lot of elastane lycra in, and that's what keeps it fitting. With bias cut, what we do is we cut the fabric so that rather than the fibres going this way, they go this way. And what that means is that you get a certain amount of stretch. But it's a clinging fit, it kind of skims you without actually sticking to you. So a couple of people have said, oh, it's a tight fitting gown. It's actually not. So far we've put it on our fit model, who is about 5'7" and a fairly standard UK size 10, which is about 34 inches around here and about 26, 27 around here. It fits on her. We've put it on Morgana, who is 5'4", 30E in the bust, and a very, very tiny waist, as you all know if you've ever seen pictures. Fits on her. And we've put it on Jess, who is 6'1", about a 36 double D, 36E in the bust, and about a size 12 to 14, depending on what her agency has been telling her to do this week and whether she listened to them. And me! And as you know, I am a large to extra large, and I would normally have sized up in sleepwear. The issue that you do have on these is length, because you can see that they pretty much stretch, but if I take off my heels, it is trailing on the floor. So even if I size up, actually all that's going to happen is that it will just trail on the floor more. We fitted it to someone who was sort of fitted it to around a kind of 5'6", 5'7" height for somebody who's a size 10, but basically it's going to depend a lot on whether you go up or down a size. Obviously they get longer as they get bigger, but if you go down a size it's going to end up slightly shorter because the fabric will move slightly upwards. The other reason this is an easy fit is the cowl neck. I know a lot of people said that they preferred the V-neck, but honestly a cowl neck is so much more forgiving in lots of ways. I'm a big fan of cowl necks. A few people have asked about the spaghetti straps. Yes, if you are full busted and gravity is having its impact on you, you might have issues with the spaghetti straps digging in. They are adjustable, but you might prefer to go for the V-neck gown instead. Like I say, that is actually slightly more difficult to fit though. If you want to know how it fits, I'm wearing a bra at the moment. So me and Lydia agreed that I would just take my clothes off on camera because that just seemed easier. So yeah, your boobs are going to sit at whatever height they sit at naturally. There's not an inbuilt support shelf in here. It is a double layer on here just to give a tiny bit of shaping, but it's very, very gentle. The same is true of the V-neck. There's no inbuilt support on these sleepwear slips. If you're worried about it clinging really tightly, like I say, the bias cut tends to skim rather than to clump onto you the way a lycra thing would. However, it's a shiny fabric, so you might really, really like it in person and then find what I do, which is that you're wearing a shiny fabric on your tummy and then you look at a camera picture or a video and you go, oh my god, because the light on that will hit it in a funny way and it will accentuate your curves, which if you're having issues with your tummy, then you may not enjoy that. But you certainly won't have fit issues because of your tummy. You just might not appreciate how it looks. So I hope that helps. I think that's every question I've been asked so far. I wish there was an easy way to explain bias cutting, but I think unless you've actually tried it, it's probably not going to make much sense. And now I'm going to go and answer the door like this.